Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over some stuff regarding the Ravens and the Orioles. With the Ravens, we're going to be going over the practice report updates, the injury report updates, everything we know from that. The past couple of weeks has been, clean, fresh injury reports, nobody on the injury reports. Everyone's been available. It's all been nice. It's always been happy and good. But after the game against the Vikings, we did leave that game with some injuries, including obviously the Rashad Bateman injury that we talked about, where it's a high ankle sprain, but it's not expected to be anything too serious. He might miss, a couple of weeks with it. He's probably, most definitely not going to play this Sunday, but he might miss next week against the Jets or, another week. I don't know. But it's a high ankle sprain. Apparently, it's not anything too serious. It's not like a serious high ankle sprain. So he should be back for the long stretch or the important stretch of the season in like the next couple of weeks or so. But what we learned today is that Marlon Humphrey actually did get his finger pinned today, which is a procedure, like a minor procedure done to your finger. So John Harbaugh today did already rule him out for the game on Sunday against the Browns. So we're going to be going into that game on Sunday with no Marlon Humphrey, which again is fine. It's the Browns. I have a lot of opinions and thoughts on this game that we're going to talk about on Saturday for the game preview. But all I'm going to say is that, I just hope that the Ravens don't overthink anything. It's the 2-7 Browns. I understand that, but it is a divisional game, so it can get a little scary. The Browns defense is extremely good. Myles Garrett is literally the definition of a game wrecker. So overall, I just hope they don't overthink it. We've already beaten them once this year, but sweeping a team in your own division is pretty hard, no matter how bad that team is or no matter how good of a team you are. So hopefully they can just get the job done on Sunday. Obviously, we'll go over the game preview and everything on Saturday, but that's just kind of what I want to say about that right now. So Marlon Humphrey going to be out for the game on Sunday. Rashad Bateman most likely going to be out for the game on Sunday unless he miraculously healed from this ankle injury. And he also wasn't in practice today. Justice Hill wasn't at practice today. And then there was one more player that was not at practice today that obviously it's going to garner a lot of attention. Everyone was kind of freaking out about it initially, but it should be okay. And that was Lamar Jackson. He missed today's practice with knee soreness, and we'll just go over the report right now. So going over the initial injury report for Lamar, Adam Schefter obviously tweeted out today and said, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson didn't practice today due to what head coach John Harbaugh said is knee soreness. But the team expects for Jackson to return to practice Thursday. So it's not expected to be a big deal. Obviously, we went through that entire hamstring situation. It was very complicated and everything. But this is not supposed to be a super complicated thing. This is just a precautionary thing. John Harbaugh said that he was dealing with some knee soreness after the game on Sunday. So hopefully he's okay. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening tomorrow. If he comes back to practice tomorrow and has a full practice, then no one will remember this and we'll all be good to go and we'll just move on forward. But Lamar Jackson, obviously when it comes to like knee soreness, you just want to be precautionary. You want to be safe, especially with your MVP quarterback. It's Lamar Jackson. We understand how important he is to this team. But knee soreness, not anything too serious. Could have been a lot worse, but did miss practice today, which is common for a lot of star players that are just dealing with some sort of soreness, and it's Wednesday at the same time. Like, it's not like this is a Friday practice where it came up randomly. This is a Wednesday practice. He should be back tomorrow, should be back for Friday, and we should be pretty much 100% good to go for the game on Sunday, so this is nothing to worry about yet. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, then I'm going to start worrying. But as of right now, I'm not really worried about it. Just a precautionary thing. So hopefully he will be good to go for the game on Sunday. And one more thing that I do want to shout out before we move over to talking about the Orioles in a second, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about regarding them. But one more thing that I want to talk about regarding the Ravens is that Malachi Starks in the last 2 weeks of the NFL, he has been the number 1 ranked defender on the PFF grading system. Obviously, if you don't know what PFF is, it's like the Pro Football Focus grading system. They kind of grade all these different positions. When you watch like Sunday Night Football and they show like the players and their little like intros, it kind of has like their PFF grade, which a lot of the times isn't completely accurate, and this might not be completely accurate as well. But it is cool to see Malachi Starks get some praise. He's had back-to-back weeks with an interception. He's our first-round pick from this last year out of Georgia. This is the guy that I wanted. Everybody knows that. I literally would post mock draft videos. I did 3 or 4 official mock drafts before the NFL draft on this show. So, I love Malachi. I wanted him to be a Raven. He is a Raven. He struggled a little bit early in terms of coverages, but I think with the Alohi Gilman trade, I think he's also benefiting from that along with Kyle Hamilton. So overall, the defense has looked a lot better since that trade. But Malachi Starks has really been able to kind of be that ball hawk player, and he's had back-to-back games with an interception, which is really cool to see. And then hopefully he can keep that streak going against Dylan Gabriel and the Browns on Sunday. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Malachi. This is really cool. It's really cool to see him getting this recognition, and he's a player who has a lot of potential to be really, really, really special. We've seen him play well here recently. Had a little bit of coverage problems early on, but it's cool to see him with back-to-back games with an interception, and also just doing very well in his coverages as well. But the next thing that we're moving on to is the Orioles, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about with the Orioles. Content for the Orioles hasn't been too crazy over the past month or so. We went through MLB playoffs. It was a crazy time. And again, I've mentioned this before, but while I was watching the MLB playoffs, especially when I was watching the Blue Jays, I just couldn't help but think about the Orioles, man, and how special it is to be in the postseason. And the Orioles were in the playoffs in 2023 and 2024. Obviously, they didn't win a single game in those two years being in the playoffs. They got swept by the Rangers in 2023 in the ALDS after having the first round bye, and then they got swept in 2024 against the Royals and lost that 2-0. So it's been rough for the Orioles in the playoffs recently, but you can't help but just if your team's not in the playoffs and you're watching other teams in it throughout October, especially later in October, it's such a cool. October baseball really is something that you can't beat. I mean, it's an incredible feeling. But in terms of free agency, because that's obviously the next thing on the board for the Orioles right now, and for every other team in the MLB, free agency opened up, I think, 6 days ago, and there hasn't been anything too crazy going on. This isn't like the NBA. This isn't like the NFL, where kind of all these moves happen within a 2 or 3 day span. MLB free agency can really stretch over time, over a couple months span. I'm sure in the next week or maybe 2 weeks they're going to have some moves starting to get going. But once one, big to decent move happens, it's kind of a domino effect, and then everything kind of goes from there. So nothing's really been happening yet. Teams are still meeting with players and having interest in players and all that stuff. And when it comes to interest, and when it comes to any sort of rumors or updates on who the Orioles are interested in and stuff like that, we will obviously go over any sort of rumors, updates on who the Orioles are targeting and stuff like that. But there was a report the other day from Bob Nightingale, who is right there with Jeff Passan in terms of just, baseball media, very reliable sources. He basically said that he expects the teams that are expected to be most aggressive in free agency are the Dodgers, Mets, Orioles, Yankees, Braves, and Blue Jays. Those are the 6 teams that he listed. Obviously, seeing the Orioles in that list is really, really cool, but it makes sense. I mean, we've talked about it before, how important of an offseason this is for the Orioles, so it makes sense why they're here. They have a chance to really change things and really turn things around. They get Craig Abernathy as their new manager. We're currently assembling a new coaching staff right now under Craig Abernathy, and then obviously the Orioles are a team David Rubenstein said that there's no financial restrictions. So the Orioles have a chance to go out there and really get a lot better in this offseason, especially when it comes to the starting pitching side of things and just the pitching in general. Getting some guys for the bullpen and getting a really good, solid closing pitcher for this team. And anything that has to do with pitching, we're going to be all over. The Orioles, or there should be all over, but there's also a couple of rumors and reports out there that the Orioles could potentially even be in the market to go get an outfielder. For example, there was reports saying that the Orioles might be a sneaky dark horse team to get Kyle Tucker, which would be insane. I'm not even going to kind of entertain that reality because I just don't even think it's very possible. But if it does happen, that would obviously be insane. You kind of just replace Tyler O'Neill with Kyle Tucker would be insane, but he's going to be the highest paid free agent this offseason. I just don't see the Orioles doing that. That would be crazy, though. And then there's another one like Byron Buxton, who is willing to waive his no trade clause and go somewhere to a team that's trying to contend. And I think that Byron Buxton as a veteran presence in that locker room, or just a veteran presence in the clubhouse, could be really, really, really good for this Orioles team. So that could be interesting. Cody Bellinger could be interesting. Just a couple of these outfielder names could be really, really interesting, because you look at Tyler O'Neill. I don't think any Orioles fan wants Tyler O'Neill a part of this team, and we know that he's not going to be a part of this team long term. He's always injured, not really playing well whenever he does play, so it's just not really a great scenario with him. But when it comes to the Orioles in free agency, again, they are expected to be very aggressive. They're expected to be an aggressive team in free agency, not just in terms of signing players, but also maybe looking at some trades around the league, like potentially getting a guy like Sandy Alcantara, maybe getting like a Joe Ryan or Mackenzie Gore or something like that. Like, that would be really cool for them to go be aggressive in trades, because again, they have an absolute treasure chest of prospects and young players on their team right now that they could go after and do a big mega move if that's the case. So we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, MLB free agency can always be super unexpected. But again, anything regarding pitching, the Orioles need to be all over. I'm really trusting Mike Elias to make the right decisions, because again, which might sound crazy, but I really do think that this team might have learned its lesson after what happened this past offseason and seeing how underwhelming it was, seeing how the team performed this year. I think if they're all over the starting pitching market, maybe getting one of the great closers available, like a Robert Suarez, Edwin Diaz, Pete Fairbanks, someone like that, and then even just filling up a couple bullpen names as well. If they're all over pitching, that's going to be the only thing that they can really do this year that would make them better, because it's a big need. But also going out, maybe getting a good outfielder would be really cool. I don't really expect it, but it would be kind of cool if they did have some talks about it. But we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, when it comes to free agency, it's all pitching for the Orioles. And we actually have an article from Jeff Passan that he wrote. He was basically, if you go throughout this article, it's basically him talking about the perfect offseason moves for every single team. Like for the Dodgers, it says Edwin Diaz, which would obviously just be insane, and obviously people would be upset, including me. But he kind of went over every single team and a projected player that they should go and get, like in terms of a signing, that every player should go get a perfect signing or a perfect trade. So when we go down here to the Baltimore Orioles, I do kind of want to go over what he said. So 2025 results, 75 and 87, last place in the American League East. He said the perfect transaction. He said the Orioles cratered this year, the consequence of a pitching staff that didn't replace the departed Corbin Burns, and they still need arms. This is kind of literally what I was just saying about how underwhelming the offseason was last year, how they didn't sign anyone. They waited till all the top guys were gone. They ended up getting Charlie Morton and Tomoyuki Sagano, which obviously didn't work out. And it was an underwhelming offseason, which led to just a horrible season overall. So I do think that they might have learned their lesson. I think they're going to be all over the pitching this year. Maybe even get an extension done with one of their young players like Gunnar Henderson would be cool to get an extension done with. I don't really expect that right now. Again, I think everything regarding pitching, they have to be all over. Starting pitching, a couple of bullpen names, and one of the top closers available. That is what they need to go do. You already have Trevor Rogers and Kyle Bradish kind of being your starting pitchers right now, but you can add someone better than them or just right alongside them to kind of be that very solid 1 through 3 going into this year. The Grace Rodriguez situation is complicated with all the injuries that he's been dealing with. Dean Kramer is probably going to be at the back end of stuff. We can convert some starters into bullpen guys, like maybe Tyler Wells can go back to being his bullpen role. We'll go over all of that as the offseason goes on and as decisions get made. Because, again, it's still early. It's still early in the offseason. There's still nothing has even really happened in free agency. Nothing has happened in free agency yet. So, again, it's like a big domino effect. Once one thing happens, then probably a lot of other stuff's going to happen. So we'll see what happens with that whole situation. But going over what Jeff Passan said again, basically saying that the Orioles cratered. They had a big downfall after they didn't really replace Corbin Burns. And then it says, with David Rubenstein entering his second season as owner, now is the time to open the checkbook and play in the big arm sandbox. Basically saying, there was a big decline from 2023 and 2024. Then going to 2025, obviously. Not 2023, 2024. 23 and 24, you can kind of combine those seasons. They had the most wins in the entire American League heading into last year. You can kind of take what happened those 2 years and just say, obviously, we were really successful then. And then there was a big drop-off from those years to this past season. And a lot of that had to do with a really disappointing offseason, which we kind of paid the price for and learned the hard way. But again, now it's time to really kind of open the checkbook, get your premier guy, and move forward into the future and just be competitive, especially in a division that is already really competitive. You have Boston, you have New York, you have Toronto, who just went to the World Series, you have Tampa, who's a solid team, and then you have the Orioles, who have the potential to be extremely good. And they're on track to do that with Craig Albanaz as the new manager. You're kind of seeing like a shift in the culture and stuff like that, a shift in the coaching staff and everything like that, trying to get right. But this is kind of the last missing piece in getting this team right, is really getting those pitchers to help these young position players. It says Baltimore is a few moves away from contending in the AL East, but those moves need to be significant. There's a clear top tier of starters with Tatsuya Amai, Framber Valdez, and the pitcher that the Orioles should sign, particularly if they don't want to dip into their system like they did with acquire Burns, sign free agent right-hander Dylan Cease. So Dylan Cease is a player who I could really see us getting. I could see us getting Framber Valdez. Tatsuya Amai, I don't see us getting. I think he's going to go more on the West Coast. That's what a lot of Japanese players tend to do nowadays. Go over to the West Coast and play for, a team like the Giants or obviously the Dodgers or the Mets. The Mets and Yankees aren't in like a top tier organization is what I kind of meant to say. So I don't see us getting Tatsuya Amai, even though it would be incredible and I think it would be really cool for us to do. But I can see us getting a Framber or a Dylan Cease or even a Ranger Suarez. If we can get any of those three guys, even like a Shota Imanaga could be really cool. Michael King could be cool. But the three main guys I want us to go after, Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, or Ranger Suarez. I would be really happy with any of those three moves. Dylan Cease seems cool. There's a lot of rumors that he's going to be an Astro, but we'll see what happens there. But speaking of Framber Valdez, so the GM meetings are actually currently happening right now, and Framber is at the meetings visiting with a bunch of teams, and I'm sure and I'm hopeful that one of those teams is the Orioles, so we'll see what happens from there. But Dylan Cease or Framber Valdez could be really, really, really cool. Ranger Suarez could be cool as well. I just hope that they don't let us down again, and I just hope that they be aggressive this offseason because they really have a chance to turn the tides, to turn the page, to really, really make an impact to this offseason. I just hope that they don't let us down. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify, make sure to click the link in the bio to check out the Twitter and the Instagram. I post all the time on Twitter, so make sure to give that a follow. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. We'll have an episode up tomorrow talking about the Ravens injury report situation. We'll see if Lamar comes back to practice, which I'm sure he will. Just a precautionary thing, but we'll go over that stuff tomorrow, and then we'll also go over, of course, anytime any big Orioles news or rumors comes out, we'll obviously go over and talk about that as well. But again, I'll see you guys later. Have a great rest of y'all's day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.